It's kind of like a little cagey.
It feels like we're at the zoo
I
being
feel-
looked
I
at.
feel like a little bit caged.
Do you?
A little bit.
Turn my phone on.
Jesse, test.
All good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Do it.
Because you can't wear
Yeah.
jeans at full
Yeah.
patrol. So fun.
Yeah. That sounds really good.
Yeah, I did. I saw you. Okay, so we're still gonna talk about it. Yeah, but not his. That's right. But we'll name it. Yeah. And just open it up to maybe. Waiting on someone who's getting out of school. Okay. Is that clock right? We got 2 minutes. Oh, yeah. Oh, in general? Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like, are we good to go? Like, let's get it started.
Kind of like chatty. Like,
Yeah. Oh, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Not
good.
serious.
I don't know. Maybe she's. Have you? No. Diane?
I don't know. Her. Is she in the room? No, Diane.
Diane?
I did not see it.
It's me, right? Yeah. She's there.
She's not in there.
Oh, maybe. My coat, which is good.
She just pulled in.
Great. Great.
Okay. No, no worries.
So, I think I should just wait for her. Here she goes. Move seats? Yes. Have you started? No, I'm waiting for you. Oh, thank you. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and electronically forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall and remotely at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call for a roll call vote.
Miss Miggins,
Here.
Miss Eglo,
Here.
Mr. Wasserman,
Here?
Mr. Vinayak,
Here.
Mayor Prupus.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the October 20th, 2020 Township Committee minutes?
Motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second. Whatever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And then we have some abstentions
Yes.
tonight.
Abstain.
I'm abstaining and Sanjiv. May I have a motion to approve the October 20th, 2020 Special Township Committee minutes?
Motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And then all those abstaining?
Abstain.
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 May I have a motion to approve the November 2nd, 2020 Special Township Committee minutes? May I have a motion?
Motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? Abstain.
Abstain.
May I have a motion to approve the November 10th, 2020 Township Committee minutes?
Motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Abstain.
Abstain.
May I have a motion to approve the November 10th, 2020 Special Township Committee minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Thank you. Good evening, Millburn Township. I would like us all to take a moment of silence for the lives lost due to COVID-19. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that tonight is a business meeting, and we are all very fortunate to be neighbors in this privileged community. Our township committee meetings begin with the business of the town and end with public comment. Tonight, we will be opening up comments from the public that pertain to consent agenda items after we invite comments from the township committee and before we vote on resolutions. Yesterday, we as a nation celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. In his honor, many people posted one great quote after another from this wise and courageous man. Two struck me as rather relevant to our meeting tonight. The time is always right to do what is right. Let us remember that we are on the township committee in service to our community. We have taken an oath to do what is right. While we might not always agree with each other or our meeting attendees, we must have goodwill towards each other and work together to do what is right for the 20,000 residents that live in our town. We must also remember Dr. King Jr.'s call for nonviolent activism and civil disobedience. This leads me to perhaps my favorite of Dr. King Jr.'s quotes. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I trust you will all remember that there is no place at this meeting for denigrating or discrediting fellow residents, volunteers, or committee members. There is no place at this meeting for heckling or applause. Again, this is a business meeting, and everyone should comport themselves appropriately, whether they attend in person or remotely. Yelling out from the crowd or showing disrespect for your neighbors or committee members will not be tolerated. If a member of the public disrupts the meeting, I will advise you with a warning that you are disrupting the meeting, and if it continues, you will be instructed that you are disrupting the meeting and preventing the business meeting from proceeding, and will either be muted or asked to leave the building. Public comments will be strictly limited to 3 minutes. At 2.5 minutes, you will hear the buzzer and will have 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. When the second buzzer goes off at the full 3 minutes, your allotted time is over. Each individual will be given the opportunity to make one public comment pertaining to the consent agenda items and one general public comment at the end of the meeting. No person is permitted to yield his or her time to another speaker. Public comment period is a time for you to state your comments and not a dialogue between the public and the committee. Our contact information is available on the township website, where you are welcome to contact us directly. I am happy to meet with the public during my regular scheduled office hours on Thursdays from 9 to 11. Meetings shall be set up by appointment. To schedule an appointment, please contact me at tprupis@millburntwp.org. Please include how you would prefer meeting, via Zoom, by phone, or in person, and I will do my best to accommodate your request. Every Friday, I send out a mayor's message through the Swift 911 system. For those who wish to register, it is available under emergency notifications on the homepage of our town's website, www.twp.millburn.nj.us. Again, I want to thank you for your cooperation in understanding that this is a business meeting, and we are all here in service because we love our town. I'd also like to point out that we now have a view of our audience as a Zoom panelist. Okay. On January 6th, the Downtown Vision Steering Committee had an internal meeting and discussed the progress of our downtown vision plan. Our page on the town's website is all up to date, and you can find the summary of the December 3rd virtual public engagement session, along with the summary of the first survey, which received over 700 responses. You can also view the ideas wall summary on the webpage. We have tasked our hired traffic engineer, Maurice Rachad from Mazer Consulting, to create two-way modeling on Millburn Ave and Essex Street with potential bike lanes. We will have another public survey and information session, as well as small group opportunities with the Downtown Visioning Steering Committee in the upcoming weeks. Perkins Eastman has been having one-on-one conversations with a handful of commercial property owners. Our next steering committee meeting with Perkins Eastman is scheduled for 9 a.m. on January 27th. On January 13th at 8 a.m., our Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board had its first meeting of the year. Mr. McDonald has created an annual report that will be distributed to the full Township Committee this Friday, January 22nd. Tonight, we will be voting on two projects that were initiated by the PSAT. Number one, improving the student safety by the Millburn Middle School during drop-off and pickup by installing a small portion of sidewalk to provide for safe walking at the intersection of Whitney Road and Haddonfield Road. Number two, adding an additional crosswalk and pedestrian refuge on the westbound side of the train station. I'd like to note that the township is hiring crossing guards. In April, Bike Walk Millburn and PSAB will be co-hosting Bike Week from April 17th to April 24th. And further information on this week of biking events will be shared as it becomes available. Our next PSAB meeting will be on April 28th at 7 p.m. for those residents who can not attend a morning meeting but can attend a night meeting. On January 13th at 9:30 a.m., Committeewoman Miggins and I had our first parking ad hoc meeting with Mr. McDonald and Sergeant Jill Tavares. We discussed instituting a residential parking permit that would cost $60 and provide a greater convenience for our residents and hopefully encourage more people to shop in all of our business districts. Mr. McDonald is working on compiling additional information that will be distributed to the full Township Committee so we can discuss the permit at our next Township Committee meeting on February 9th. We also discussed adding additional EV charging stations throughout the township. On January 13th at 7 p.m., the Environmental Commission had its first meeting of the year. The Commission is in the process of sorting out its priorities for 2021. The next meeting is on February 10th at 7 p.m. On January 14th, Committeeman Wasserman, or Deputy Mayor Wasserman, Mr. McDonald and myself met with Chief Brian Gilfedder to review crime statistics and police strategy. The chief is with us tonight on Zoom and will give us a report a little later on in the meeting. On January 31st at 11 a.m., we will have our first arts roundtable discussion in Millburn Township. We have invited representatives from the following organizations to share their goals for 2021 so we can find points of intersection and collaboration that will enhance focus on the arts and community in Millburn Township. CETA, Art Advisory, Explore Millburn Short Hills, Millburn Creative Collective, Historical Society, and Paper Mill. This is the invitation and it has gone out, and the public can also participate by watching the roundtable discussion. Tomorrow night is the first Art Advisory Committee meeting in 2021. There are some current vacancies on 2 of our town boards. The Millburn Environmental Commission, there's alternate number 1 position available. The Environmental Commission typically meets at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday of each month. The Environmental Commission has a distinguished history as one of the New Jersey's first municipal environmental commissions. The commission attracts township volunteers with a zeal for environmental stewardship and the professional credentials to advance clean water, clean air, recycling, and the environment. The Millburn Environmental Commission oversees the identification, preservation, and protection of the township's environmental resources. The Environmental Commission also serves as advisor to the Township Committee and the Planning Board on planning and zoning matters. The Cora Hartshorn Arboretum and Bird Sanctuary also has a mayor's trustees position available. The Cora Hartshorn Arboretum is a historic woodlands garden and educational institution. Their mission is to foster and promote environmental awareness, education, and stewardship within the greater community. They conduct 4 major activities: education, forest conservation, citizen science, and volunteers. Those interested in volunteering shall contact me at my email, tprupus@millburntownship.twp.org, to request a volunteer interest form, and can include a statement of interest or a relevant resume when they submit the form. Volunteer interest forms are kept on file for a year. That concludes my report for tonight. Deputy Mayor, do you have any reports for tonight?
I do. Thank you so much, Mayor. I'm going to just take off my mask briefly. I'm very excited to report that our Explore Millburn Short Hills bid has hired Ryan Gleason as its executive director. Our board voted unanimously to approve Mr. Gleason's contract. He'll be starting February 1st and will be working full-time with posted office hours in Town Hall. Mr. Gleason is a well-known bid professional with specific experience in state grants to municipalities. With Mr. Gleason's leadership, we'll focus on obtaining grants for all of our small businesses and restaurants. As we head into the end of January, we know this will be a very challenging time for all of our merchants, and we must do everything we can to support them. I also want to thank Marla Itzkin, our marketing professional, who has worked tirelessly creating social media posts for our merchants and restaurants this past holiday season and up to date. She's working at it, every day. We are currently undertaking a new gift card initiative to keep our residents shopping local in Millburn Short Hills. Simply purchase a gift card for $200 and receive $250 in food or services from those participating restaurants and businesses. I want to offer a special thank you to our former mayor, Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg, for spearheading this new program with Marla's help. Friends, please join me in purchasing a gift card and shop local. And the other thing I was going to touch on, which the mayor spoke to already, is that we had a very good meeting with our police chief, and we'll be hearing from him later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committeeman Vinayak, do you have any reports?
Sure. So I was fortunate enough, or I'm fortunate enough to join the finance subcommittee with Deputy Mayor Wasserman. We had our first meeting with our CFO and our business administrator. We went over and went through all the expenses in their buckets by department over the last 3 years. And we are looking into to start sharing. That's not been confirmed yet, but we are looking into actually having department heads review their monthly finances as a management report, not as an accounting report. It'll be more like user-friendly. So at the end of the year, we are not looking at, oh, what happened, why did we spend so much here? They will be monthly looking at it and can take some actions right away rather than waiting till the end of the year to hear from anyone. Then I also am fortunate to join the rec board. So their meeting happened first on the January 13th. They've done a phenomenal job in winter sports, outside basketball, outside volleyball. They're also now, I don't want to steer their zing here or take their zing away, but they have set up ice skating rink, very, very low end. It will be open, and you wait to hear from the rec board when the temperature outside is in low teens. So the ice is there, and it'll be open for Millburn residents without any fee. And that's what I know as of now, so that's what I'm trying to share. We're also looking into either making a dedicated page for them on Facebook, or as a part of Millburn Township, have a section for Millburn Rec, so they can keep posting on that on their time, whatever game or thing that they actually try to foster in kids.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Committeewoman Higgins?
Yes, thank you very much. I, on the 14th, went to the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum meeting, and February 1st, registration is going to open for their summer programs, and they're getting calls daily. They're really excited about it. Everyone seems pretty pumped up for that, so that's very good news. And hartshornarboretum.org is their website, and they've been updating that. They'll have a donation page. They, of course, always could use money. They are looking to hit their targets. They almost hit their targets for 2020. They're looking at, of course, for 2021. So it's a worthy cause, and they're hoping that things get back up and running for them. Because it is closed right now. The Arboretum is closed.
Great, thank you.
That's what I have. Thank you.
Committeewoman Thaliglo?
Thank you. So we had the joint 911 dispatch board meeting, and they're fully staffed. They're running, everything is working out really well there. And I want to thank you for honoring my request to put my seat back, because I'm much more comfortable here, and it's a little less claustrophobic, so thank you. I like sitting here. Appreciate it, Tara.
Fabulous.
Mayor. Good. Good.
Is that it?
That's it for
Complete?
me.
You know, just food for thought. You're doing the joint committee. Do you know what our spend is on it? Just as a throughout there, because I was reviewing all those numbers with Mr.
No, I
McDonald.
don't have that with me, but I'll certainly get that for you. But if you've seen the
So
numbers,
I know the number. I'm
so
actually I'm not
feel free to
trying to
share.
here to get you or anything. This is like a joke here. But what I'm saying is,
what's a joke? I don't get it.
the thing is, overall, we spend a lot of time here on everything. And just to have an understanding of what those expenses are or what those finances are, it's good to have it in the back pocket.
So they only meet quarterly. At the next meeting, would you like me to come back with the detailed accounting? Because I could do that if that would make you feel more comfortable.
I have it all. I can give
Oh,
it to you as
then
well.
why don't, do you want to share with the public since you have it and I don't? I'm okay with that.
I think it went wrong way, Ms. Eglo. There is nothing that I'm trying to as I said, get you on the aha moment.
Oh, I know,
All
no.
I'm saying is, this is something we do as a shared services. We should have a knowledge, and that's where we are trying to work on having a monthly reports, management reports,
Well-
that you will also get, so.
Thank you. Well, they only meet quarterly with the liaison, so if you would like me to get a monthly report, I could get that from Mr. McDonald.
Sure, whatever you feel.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, do you have a report for us?
I have several, Mayor.
Okay,
Do you want me to get into all of those or just general report?
I think we'll do all of them. Do you want to do your general and then?
Yep. So I think what I'll start with is I was asked to report to the committee on the various safety precautions that are being taken with our township committee meeting. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Let me turn that on. Forgot it.
Okay, that's better. I was asked by the township committee to report on the various safety precautions that we've taken here to allow the public to participate in these meetings, both in person as well as on Zoom. And so just wanted to go over several things that we've done. First and foremost, we've limited the capacity of this room to 25%, which happens to be 25 people. And we've allowed for additional overflow space in the conference room of 6 additional people where you can view Zoom, and in the event that you would like to make a public comment, you can come into this room to do so. We've also, the Department of Public Works cleans this room every day. On Tuesdays that we have a township committee meeting, they fog this room, as well as they run this humidifier or air purifier over here that we have during the day, and then we also run it for about an hour prior to the meeting. They then also fog this room the next day on Wednesday to clean up after all of us being in here as well. The windows are cracked for additional circulation. Not that middle one, it keeps slipping down. We'll get that fixed. But we've also installed plexiglass for the protection of the township committee in the event that they would like to, take their mask down to speak, but more so because they have to sit in close proximity to one another. We have a sheet on the table here for people to sign in as they come into the room for contact tracing purposes in the event that there was an exposure as a result. And lastly, we have a camera in the lobby of Town Hall, the front lobby, which alerts people if they come into the building without a mask, but also alerts people if they come into the building above the prescribed temperature of 100.4. That also will send an alert to key personnel in the township, one of those being me, to alert me that somebody is in the building that is above the temperature, so we can ask them to discreetly leave the building. So those are the safety precautions that we've put in place to protect not only our residents and the public who come to these meetings, but also the committee and the staff that also participate.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
You're welcome. At this time, I don't know if you'd like to bring on Chief Gilfedder. I think
great.
that was going to be part of my reports as well. So Jesse will bring Chief Gilfedder into the room. He was going to give a brief report to the committee and to the public.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
So, good evening, Mayor, Township Committee, and residents. Thank you for having me tonight. I was asked tonight to talk about the safety and security of our township. The safety of our residents and businesses are our utmost concern. We at the police department give our full effort 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure our community continues to be a safe place to live and work. At the beginning of the month, the township experienced 2 residential burglaries on the same day, one on Cayuga Way and one on Fairfield Terrace. These burglaries have heightened awareness of our residents, and our detective bureau has been working with our homeowners and surrounding agencies to solve these crimes. We have increased patrols in addition to the efforts that our officers take every day. We also have specialized details out in our neighborhoods. And I can assure you that there's not been a spike in burglaries or car thefts over the past year. The numbers for these crimes has remained relatively flat, even though these burglaries have made people very aware of what's going on. We continue to ask our residents to keep their vehicles safe by removing all valuables from your vehicles, removing your keys, key fobs, and valet keys, and locking your vehicles. Car thieves are looking for easy targets. If they cannot find them here in Millburn Township, they will go elsewhere. So over the past couple of months, our residents have helped us by locking their cars, and in the end have reduced the number of car thefts and break-ins. We'd like our residents to continue to be just as vigilant with their homes. I would like to give some tips in protecting your home. Get to know your neighbors. Reach a level where you can trust them. They can keep an eye on your home when you're away and take in your mail. If you're not able to, ask your neighbor, stop your mail and package deliveries when you go away. Consider removing your home from Google Maps. You should be able to blur out your home so thieves can't get a view of your house. Install motion sensor lights outside your home. Leave lights on inside your home when you're away. And if you're going to be away for a lengthy period of time, consider using timers. If you have a ring-type doorbell at your front door, also install one at the back of your home. Do not keep valuables in the master bedroom. Most thieves want to be in and out of your home in a couple of minutes and go straight to the master bedroom. Consider putting a safe in a hidden area of your home bolted to the ground for your valuables. Do not share your travel plans on social media or other public forums. Do not leave keys under doormats, flower pots, or mailboxes. If you lost your keys, change your locks. The same should be done if you move into a new home. You never know who might have keys for those locks. Lock all your doors, windows, and keep your garage closed and locked. These tips should help keep your home a safer place to live. If you do see something out of the ordinary, the most important thing to do is call our police department. We do quick questions from time to time of when should I call 911. You should call 911 when a person is hurt, property is in danger, or when you need emergency help from the police department, fire department, or an ambulance. When you call 911, you should try to remain calm. Provide accurate location information. Provide your name and phone number. Provide a brief description of your emergency and stay in the line until you're told to hang up. We are here for our community to protect and assist any way we can. Hopefully this year we'll be able to interact with our residents in person and in a more informal way like our National Night Out. If you have any questions or concerns, the police department could be reached at our non-emergency number at 973-564-7001. That's 973-564-7001 or at policedept@millburntownship.org. If you have an emergency, please dial 911. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Chief.
So, the Township Committee asked me to report to them two topics. The first one that I'd like to go over is grants. I know this kind of aligns a little bit with the Finance Subcommittee, however, it was asked to provide a little bit of additional information regarding what grants the township has sought, what grants the township has received. You know, it is something that we take seriously and want to continue to pursue. Effectively, in 2019, we received $278,528.30 in grants. These range from grants that we receive each year, as well as grants that we apply for particular projects or particular movements or actions such as You Text, You Drive, or alcohol education. So on the slide that you can see, if there you go, Jesse, he's got that. This gives a breakdown of those grants. In particular, the Governor's Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. This is a grant that we receive each year. Many of you are familiar with MMAC, the organization in town that promotes, good choices and awareness about drugs and education to the township's youth. Clean Communities is a grant, again, that we receive most years that helps in graffiti abatement, garbage abatement, and various other topics meant to keep your community clean. You Text, You Drive, body armor, alcohol education. These are all grants that our police department applies for to help with programs, generally the overtime associated with those initiatives, click it or ticket, or you text, you drive. The Township's emergency management receives a grant each year. This is a result of our emergency operation plan being in very good shape and being able to answer to Essex County emergency management. They have supported us in this grant application, and we continue to get that each year. Another grant that I think some people are not as familiar with that we receive each year is from the New Jersey Department of Transportation. This usually helps us pave one road, or at least a portion of one road. Generally falls in the $250,000 to $300,000 range. As you can see, we received an NJDOT grant for the Mountain View project that was done over the last 2 years, even though it was all realized in 2020. We also, our fire department does a great job applying each year for assistance for firefighters grants, or an AFG grant. They at times do receive it, at times do not. One of the projects that they were able to do was install a sprinkler system in the fire headquarters, as well as buy turnout gear, washer and dryer, which are these very large industrial washers and dryers, to put up at Station 2. So that's just a bit of a breakdown on the grants that we do receive. The next slide shows the ones that I was talking about: alcohol education, assistance for firefighter grant, and the Leary Firefighter Foundation grant. The final slide is that there are also plenty of grants that we apply for and don't receive. For instance, we applied for the NJDOT Safe Streets to Transit grant for Chatham Road pedestrian safety improvements in 2019. We've applied several times to remove the generator from Fire Station 2 from the basement to an outdoor location. It is the only generator in any of our facilities that we have not updated within the last 10 to 15 years. So it is very old, and we want to get that completed. However, we have missed out on that grant for 2 years. Again, NJDOT Safe Routes to School. We attempted to assist in the renovation of the Millburn Middle School pedestrian bridge. And from 2017 to 2019, we applied for COPS grants to assist in the hiring of additional police officers. However, each year we did not receive that either. These COPS grants are generally for that purpose, that to hire additional officers. And again, this was meant to go toward community policing. As the Township Committee may be aware, last year we did do a study. We did hire 4 additional police officers. We were slated to hire additional 2. Obviously, that will be a further discussion with the Finance Subcommittee. That is grants. If there's any questions from the Township Committee, I'd be happy to take those. Great. The next presentation I'd like to give to the committee at their request for my report is an analysis of the township's legal expenditures. This analysis spans from 2013 to 2020. So I've been involved in many of the township committee meetings that have brought up this topic as well, and just wanted to kind of go over and give a broad-based sort of understanding of the township's legal categories and what we end up spending legal fees on. Certainly, the first is general counsel. We use general counsel services for a wide variety of tasks, including lawsuit defense, OPRA, environmental and land use, as well as legal analysis, research, and ordinances, and various things like that. Having one firm that sort of covers all of that is very useful and important. We also have a labor attorney. This attorney counsels on certainly labor-related items, including collective bargaining, grievances, employment policies, and general questions that help with the administration of our full-time employees and part-time employees here with the township. We have a tax attorney who is retained to defend the township in any negotiations or litigation as a result to tax appeals. And I'll have a little bit more information regarding those 3 categories later on in this presentation or report to the committee. We also have affordable housing attorney, which has provided legal services in response to the builder's remedy lawsuit, the concerned residents lawsuit, and declaratory judgment, and are currently going on with the fair share and the courts. In the next slide, I want to show the committee the total legal costs from 2013 to 2020. As you can see, these legal costs are quite, steep in the sense that each year in 2013 we spent 1.2 million, and now in 2020 we are in the ballpark of $722,617.58. The reason I say ballpark is I don't want to be misleading that this number does not include some December bills that may not have been paid. So just that is the number I had at this time for this report. So from 2013 to 2020, the township did spend $8,577,165. That's over an 8-year period. One of the things that often doesn't come up in this is that the township had numerous cases that we were asked to defend ourselves despite seeking insurance coverage for those cases. At that time, whether it was back in 2009 when we were dealing with the Heikel matter, or whether it was in 2013 when we were dealing with the High Center or other matters, we went back to our insurance company to seek coverage and ended up having to go to arbitration with them to receive coverage and payment for the coverage that we should have had. This increased the costs, as you can see by this analysis of the overall costs, and we received a reimbursement from the insurance carrier for several matters of $3.455 million, which brings us to a net sort of legal cost over the 8 years of $5,121,609. Annualized over those 8 years, the township has spent $640,201 each year for those 8 years. Obviously, some years are more than others, depending on what litigation is happening. Now I'll go into each of those different buckets or categories when it comes to legal counsel. So in general counsel, we mapped out the costs for 2013 to 2020. I'd like to point out that the numbers that you see on this slide are billed. These are not paid. These are showing what we were billed by general counsel in those years. The light blue bar graph beside it shows what we actually spent in those years for litigation. And taking litigation to the sense that anything that was in excess of $5,000 to defend a particular lawsuit. The township deals on an average basis with 4.6 lawsuits per year. We pay our general counsel $175 per hour, and the average spend, again, although in some years it's more than others, is $149,269.52 for litigation purpose for lawsuits that are brought against the township or that the township had initiated. As many of you may recall, we fought the Stop and Shop placement at in Springfield. That went on for many years, over 20. And so much of that had hit ahead in 2016 and 2017, or 2017 and 2018. The next slide is what other cost factors go into general counsel besides lawsuits, which is one of those things where we don't always we submit everything to insurance. However, that does not mean insurance covers everything. There are certain exclusions in your insurance policies that don't allow it to be covered. So therefore, some of those lawsuits are on the township to defend themselves. But there are other things that we ask general counsel to do, in particular when it comes to OPA requests. We get a lot of OPA requests, and that number has only increased over the years from 2013 to 2020. Which has rose 59%. In 2020, we received 404 OPA requests. So our costs rose 158% in that category because you're getting more complicated OPA requests. You're getting OPA requests that are associated with some litigation, and as you deal with those requests, you need to make sure that you are if you cannot provide a particular document or something like that, that you're doing it in the right way. Other cost drivers include ordinances, legal research, municipal projects, things like that. Other coverage that general counsel provides that other municipalities may have to go out for additional counsel or special counsel on are environmental matters, contract review, or historic preservation. Many people don't know that our general counsel's firm also sits on the historic preservation as the attorney for that board. The township's labor attorney, we pay the township's labor attorney $165 per hour. Most active and potential lawsuits are sent to insurance under the EPL, POL policy for the township. There are times, and there was one time in particular, that the township did not pursue insurance coverage, and insurance coverage was eventually denied for a matter that took place starting in 2014. But as you can see in this chart, there is a spike in 2016 and 2017 where our legal costs went to about $110,000. This is a result of that case going to the Third Circuit of Appeals in the federal courts, and it was petitioned to the Supreme Court as well and denied. So this was a long ongoing case as well, and so that explains some of that spike. And as you can see, in 2020, we spent $31,176.24, and that is a solid number. We received the final bill for the labor attorney, prior to my finishing this report. The next slide is the township's tax attorney. The township's tax attorney is $150 per hour. It has been that rate since 2013, when this analysis, where this analysis goes back to. The 2016 revaluation of the township caused quite a noticeable spike in the township's tax appeals. And you can see that trend in 2017, 18, and 19, where the township was defending on average 713 appeals a year. What we've spent on the township's tax attorney brings a per appeal cost to about $205.86. Again, appeals have been heavy. Encouraging is the dip that you see there in 2020, bringing that cost down to $112,938, and hopefully an indication that we are heading in the right direction in terms of the valuation of the township's properties, as well as maybe a less appeals coming forward to the municipality. The last category was the affordable housing costs. So currently the township is engaged in the housing element fair share plan or declaratory judgment, and that has cost us to date between the affordable housing attorney, general counsel, $94,062.19. And that's been going on from 2019 to present. The township was directed to mediate the builder's remedy lawsuit at 85 Woodland. That cost us $108,339.69. That case was settled, and that ran from 2018 to 2019. The concerned resident lawsuit, which has been dismissed at the end of 2020, cost the township $154,639.43, and that ran from 2019 to 2020. As I stated before, the township's been involved in quite a few lawsuits. Some of those are in defense of the quality of life of our residents, but also some of those are as a result of others suing us and the township having to defend itself. The township does seek insurance coverage for litigation that is brought before us, but that does not mean that the insurance carrier will necessarily provide coverage if there's an exclusion that precludes it. So in summary, the township has been through a lot in terms of litigation, whether it was defending the Rolling Hills area with TMB partners and the affordable housing project that was going on there, Stop and Shop, High Kel matter, the other various cases that we've been involved in, and the yearly annualized sort of spend over the last 8 years was $640,201. So happy to take any questions from the Township Committee on this report and answer any questions.
What was the high cal matter? I'm not sure what that, and the other ones I'm familiar with.
The High Cal matter was a land use dispute up at Old Short Hills Park in which a portion of Green Acres was diverted, and the township had to swap out 20 to 1 for that small portion with Green Acres down in Gilbert Place. The township was being sued for close to $3 million. We sought insurance coverage. The insurance carrier did not provide coverage. Mr. Falcon's firm defended the township and prevailed, and we ended up going back to the insurance carrier under arbitration and prevailing there.
Thank you.
Mr. McDonald, excellent slideshow. Thank you so much. So the bottom line on this, what I see here is $640,000 on an average per year we spend, and it's $175 an hour from the attorney cost.
That's
There are
correct.
different costs as well, 150, somewhere 160, but general counsel is $175 an hour.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
And I would just like to clarify too, that 640 is for all attorneys, all litigation,
Yes.
not just the general counsel.
I see.
And aren't there some council members in Kit's law firm that are less per hour versus
Yes,
the general? Yeah.
yes.
And Alex? Mr. McDonald, I should say.
Yes, W.
Do you want to just touch on how the Township Committee interacts with our legal team? Just through our mediation arbitration committee?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to mediation, arbitration, particularly in the affordable housing suits or issues, we set up meetings in which matters are discussed, as well as teleconference calls in which these matters are discussed. But always as a team with that group, and always as judiciously as possible.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. McDonald?
I have one question. Mr. McDonald, in 2020, the township received 404 Oprah requests.
Yes.
Historically, what do we normally receive in, say, do you have those numbers, or could you get us those numbers between, say, 2013 and 2019? Because you're saying that the Oprah costs have risen 158%, and that, I'm just curious about how the requests have gone up.
Yeah, so we averaged over those 8 years, 270. So essentially 134 additional over the average of our Oprah requests.
And when we get an Oprah request, we have to involve the attorney in that as well, is that true?
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah. And to be fair, there are some Oprah requests that are sort of run of the mill. They're asking for a particular document or something that's easily accessible. However, sometimes Oprah requests become very complex, and you need to, depending on what the document is, or if you're providing a denial of a document or providing a denial of something that's being sought, you want to make sure that you have the law to support you in that denial, because those individuals who file Oprah requests have the ability to take the township, and particularly the clerk, to the GRC and sue. We actually had a lawsuit back with Stop and Shop where Price Meese took us to the GRC and sued the township as a result of an Oprah request. And so you always have to be protective of that to make sure that you're not, you spend the money now or spend the money later a little bit sometimes when it comes to the GRC.
And we spent it was really $82,000 for this past year?
In 2020, correct.
Just an open.
Yeah,
Just on
that's a
Oprah.
lot of money.
And who does who prepares those Oprah requests for us? Whoever's asking for them, who's responsible for that?
Of the township staff, that's the township clerk. She is the
Township clerk.
custodian of records.
Okay, so in addition to her other full-time job, she has to have this as a full-time job?
That's correct, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? Thank you, Alex. Ooh,
Well-
Mr. McDonald.
You're welcome, Mayor. That concludes my reports.
Great report.
Thank you.
Mr. Falcon, do you have a report for us tonight? No report. And that is all of our professionals. Okay. The committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda?
I have a few, Mayor. Okay, so 2138, that is the safety improvements, and I saw there was a picture of, what was going to be happening at the Chatham Road. Something we had been talking about for a few years, so I'm really glad to see that happening. But I didn't see a picture of what's happening at the middle school.
Yes, I do apologize for that, Committeewoman Iglo. I thought that there was a picture of the middle school improvement, and I can just provide a brief description for
Yeah,
the
please.
committee. So there is a pretty gnarly intersection at Haddonfield and Whitney where Whitney and Haddonfield connect. That actually serves as a drop-off for middle school students if they're not looking to proceed all the way to the middle school. And that area becomes quite congested in the morning, especially during drop-off. And so the idea here is to provide a pedestrian sidewalk refuge area at that intersection on the what would be considered the southeast side of that road to let students be dropped off in that area and walk and proceed toward the middle school safely instead of being dropped on Whitney somewhere else or in the middle of the intersection, which I have observed myself where students are walking through the intersection as cars are, kind of zooming around, turning around. So this is meant to maybe just extend that drop off a little bit further and provide additional safety and refuge there.
And I noticed there's a huge disparity from the person who got the contract for $43,995 and the top bidder, $115,000. That's a huge difference. So are we certain that DS Meyer can do this for that price, or are we going to be looking at change orders and complications?
No, I think we are confident. We've actually worked with DS Myers before. They just recently did a project up at Oaklawn for us, and we had a very positive experience with them. We don't anticipate any issues with that price.
Such a crazy difference from the top and the lowest and highest bidder. And I know we have to take the lowest bidder unless we've had a conflict or a problem with them.
Correct.
Okay, couple more. On 21039, authorize the execution of cost-sharing agreement. Wait, what was my question on this one? Hold on. I was going through all these. This is something we've been talking about, lobbying in DC for. Is there any kind of estimated cost on what this is?
Yeah, so this is the agreement with the other municipalities that are involved in the Mayor's Rahway River Coalition. Our cost for the Township of Millburn is $10,000. Other municipalities, such as Cranford, would contribute $20,000, and then there are others that contribute $10,000 along with us. The Township of Millburn actually acts as the quote, the lead agency in which we help, we receive the money and then also distribute that money to Winning Strategies, who's the lobbyist in that helps the Mayor's Rahway in the federal process, which can be quite complicated, as well as Mott McDonald, who acts as the engineer in that.
And without Winning Strategies, we never would have found our way around the Capitol building for those lobbying events.
The word of bill.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, let's see. 21041, Community Development Block Grant Application, provide barrier-free access, various locations. So this is just going out for another grant, hopefully have a better outcome than some of the other ones.
Yes, it has been difficult in the past years. The township generally receives around $34,000 for that grant each year to provide barrier-free access in various areas. For instance, this year we will be doing that on Cypress Street.
Yeah, I saw something going on at South Mountain School, but I wasn't sure what that was. Was that?
It's not that, no.
Not that, okay. Let's see, 21042, apply for and accept a subgrant award for the federal fiscal year 2020. So is that supposed to be 2020 or 2021? Is that a,
Yeah,
say what's that?
the fiscal year ends in October.
Okay, so that date is correct.
Yep.
Congratulations, Committeewoman Miggins. I see she's going to be a liaison appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. Is this something, we've never had this before, correct?
That is correct.
So will Ms. Miggins be going as a voting member to their once-a-month meetings?
No.
Can I just ask why we're making this change?
I think that's a question for your fellow committee members. That's
Okay, fellow committee
their
members.
appointment.
So we're adding a new liaison position to the HPC?
We also added a new liaison position to the art advisory committee because we had some committees that nobody was reporting on and we didn't really have like a strong connection to what's going on there.
Right.
So I think it's important that we have a working knowledge of all the boards and committees in the town and that we can come back and report to our community.
No, that's great. That meets once a month, correct? Correct. Yes, and it's very important. A lot goes on there that people have no idea about.
Agreed.
And let's see. Okay, that's it for the consent agenda. Thank you for the clarification, Board.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda items? Okay. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on a consent agenda resolution item only?
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld. I live at 11 Alexander Lane. I am a Midtown Direct resident. I first thank you on Resolution 21036 on the bill list that we're now giving the public prior to the meeting a copy of the check register. That will reduce the number of OPA requests and will allow us to monitor the legal fees that were expended. I will talk about the legal fees later on tonight. As to Resolution 21048, I think there should be a comment about the typo before the public comments. So there is a typo on there and the public should be made aware of that. And I also thank you for recognizing the fundamental rights of citizens to address agenda action items prior to you taking action.
Jean Pasternack, 342 Hobart Avenue. I'd like to also comment, I'm glad that we have the opportunity to have comment before action items are voted upon. I think it's essential. Thank you for making that happen. 21046, the appointment of the liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission. I'd just like to know, is there any consideration of Ms. Miggins' background as a realtor being appointed to that? Is there any potential conflicts of interest? Thank you.
Any other questions on consent agenda items? Mr. Molman, is there anybody on Zoom?
There was one question about general counsel.
That would go to, okay.
There is one person asking to speak, Dominic Urso.
And on consent agenda items, okay,
Yes.
great.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everyone. Dominique Urso, residing at 514 Millburn Avenue. Tonight, there's nothing I can see for certain on the consent agenda items pertaining to the allocation of new additional monies for Perkins Eastman. Are there mistakes or typos on the retention extension resolution? Are there contracts already drafted and finalized? Since September 15th, 2020, have there been payouts to Perkins Eastman? And if so, how much? This week, Mayor Tara Prupus went door to door around all businesses on Upper Millburn Avenue, our neighbors, our fellow shop owners, to ask about opinions and/or buy-in for the contested SID or the Perkins Eastman Downtown Vision Plan. Why would Mayor Prupus go to select few businesses and skip right past us? What was the reason for this? Why leave us out? Why are we not as important? Are we not paying those same expenses? Why do you ignore all of our requests to meet with you?
Mr.
Why?
This is no
Excuse me,
longer
I'm not
about
done.
consent agenda.
I'm not done. Excuse me. Thank you. Why wouldn't you walk through our doors and our place?
This is no longer an appropriate comment around consent agenda items, and we will come
I
back
am
to
not
your-
done. and you will let me finish. I have other comments. That is,
Thank you. So we will come back to public comments at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much. Any other comments on consent agenda items? Okay, would any of our professionals or other committee members like to address any of the comments that were made on the consent agenda items?
We're just talking about 36 through 47. We haven't gotten to Perkins Eastman, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I think maybe, I don't know, if anyone would be concerned if Maggie Miggins has a conflict, so just maybe briefly address that.
How so?
I don't know, but just ensure that it would not be a conflict.
I don't know how there would be a conflict.
Well, I can
One
address
kid
that.
to-
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
Microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, Ms. Burstein attended the Historic Preservation Commission meetings for quite a number of meetings, particularly at the point when she and Committeeman Tillotson were in the process of drafting the major revision that was done to that so that they could better understand what they were doing. She had a home in the Historic Preservation District, but that doesn't result in any kind of a conflict of interest. Ms. Miggins will be there in a similar role, will have nothing to say about any application, will not vote on any application, is there to sit in the audience, watch the Historic Preservation Commission do their work, and then report back to you as to what's going on there.
Fabulous.
Right, so you're not sitting on the dais, you're not
No.
voting, you're just reporting back.
Correct.
So that's great to clarify. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Balkin.
Yeah.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-036 through Resolution 21-047, which are listed on the consent agenda?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Miggins,
Yes.
Ms. Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak,
Yes.
Mayor Prupus.
Yes.
Thank you.
We will now move on to Resolution 21-048 and the extension of professional service agreement for the preparation of the Downtown Vision Plan by Perkins Eastman. Mr. McDonald, can you please give us a summary of this resolution?
Yes. So this resolution is a result of a stipulation in their contract which said that it would be done on January 30th of 2021. This is not in line with the actual timeline of the project, but also, at this point, we are not complete with the project, nor do we anticipate being complete with the project by that date. This serves as an extension of that and a continuation of the contract terms as they were written, including the price and fee that was agreed upon. There was a typo in the resolution, and it was stated in the first whereas as June 30th, 2021, and that was meant to be January 30th, 2021. We've made that correction that has been provided to the Township Committee and should be probably noted as such prior to your adoption of the resolution.
Great. So just for clarification, we are not spending any more money or awarding any other monies to Perkins Eastman.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the project just is being pushed out a few months, and it got started a little later than we had anticipated back when we signed the contract.
That's correct. So the award was in September. However, the start of the actual project did not happen until late October. So I think the contract being awarded in September provided I think it was a 4-month or 5-month project timeline, and it just wasn't in line with what is actually happening here. There's a need to extend it to make sure the contract is completed. No additional fee, no change of contract terms, with the exception of this being extended to June 30th, 2021.
Makes sense.
Are there any comments from the committee in regards to Resolution 21-048? Are there many members of the public that would like to comment on Resolution 21-048 and only specifically on this Resolution 21-048 in the context of the conversation that we just had? Okay, so, yep, and so this is only
For this resolution.
right, it's only pertaining to this resolution and the conversation that Mr. McDonald and I and the rest of the committee just had.
Hi again. Yes, so Perkins Eastman. Okay. My comment was, again, just because I guess it was the wrong time, so I'll ask the questions again. Tonight, there's nothing I can see for certain on the consent agenda items pertaining to the allocation of new additional monies to Perkins Eastman. Was there a mistake? You just said that. Are there contracts already drafted and finalized? Since September 15, 2020, have there been any payouts to Perkins Eastman? If so, how much? Can you answer that? I'm done.
Dominique, is your comment, you have your time to finish your comment, and then we will continue.
I have other consent agenda items to speak on, so it wouldn't be relevant at this time.
This is only pertaining to 21-048.
Great, so that I'm done for this portion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else on the phone raising their hand to speak to this resolution? 21-048. Okay.
He's muted.
Daniel?
Okay. If you can hear us, Daniels, please unmute yourself so we can hear you. Oh, okay, we will move on and, okay. So, would any of our professionals or committee members like to address any of the comments that were made pertaining to Resolution 21-048?
I can speak to the question that was asked about any payments being made to Perkins Eastman. The answer to that question is yes, there have been payments, and in line with the progress of the project at this point. I do not have those figures here and now. However, if there is a desire to have those, Ms. Urso can certainly contact my office and we'll provide that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-048?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Miggins?
Yes.
Ms. Saul Eglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mr. Vinayak?
Yes.
Mayor Prupus?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to old business. And we have the ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 18 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Millburn to ban use of single-use plastic bags and polystyrene containers and reduce the use of single-use straws. Okay. Mr. Falcon, can you
Yes.
review?
The Township Committee took this up at your meeting of November 10th. There were 3 issues involved at that time. The Environmental Commission recommended an amendment of the definition of reusable bag. There was an issue as to whether to raise the price of a bag to 25 cents or leave it at 10 cents. And then finally, there was an issue over how much time would be allowed for the rollout and the effective date. you decided to leave the price where it was. You decided to adopt the definition that had been suggested by the Environmental Commission, and you landed on an effective date of 60 days. So those 3 items are incorporated in the ordinance which you have before you.
Okay, thank you. I know,
I have a
yes,
question.
please.
Mr. Falcon, have we had any feedback from any of our retailers? Is anybody objecting to this? Do we have any concerned retailers?
That's not information that would come to me. I do know that the Environmental Commission recently went over this, and they're fine with the changes, that they reflect what they were thinking about, but I have no information about retailers, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I see that we have our environmental chair, Priya Patel, on the call right now. We're going to bring her on to speak to the changes, the amendment.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Okay, well, good evening, Mayor. So yes, the township attorney encapsulated the 3 changes that we had requested, and the one that stuck was the tightening of the definition of the reusable bag. So that definition is pretty much identical to what we had recommended. And to address Deputy Mayor Wasserman's question regarding any feedback, the commission has hitherto not gotten any pushback or negative comments or any comments or opposition to this amendment. In fact, it appears that most of our small retailers, if not all of them in the township, are compliant with the ordinance as it stands. The reason why we had asked for an amendment was really to address the very small minority of large retailers within the township that had created kind of a workaround and were sort of operating in violation of the spirit of the ordinance. I don't know if that answers your question or addresses it partially.
It's good. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Does any of my fellow committee men and women have any comments? Okay, so do we have consensus then as a township committee to draft this ordinance or to take this draft ordinance and have it be placed on the next agenda for introduction? Yes?
Aye. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have full consensus. So that will be placed on the next agenda on February 9th for an introduction. Does any committee member have any other old items of business to discuss? Okay. New business. So in an effort to foster meetings with civility and respect going forward, which is for the benefits of all persons, I think it is important to consider a resolution formalizing our rules of procedure and order of business. We will begin the discussion of these rules tonight during new business. And should the Township Committee decide to move forward, a resolution will be placed on the next agenda scheduled for February 9th in order to formalize our rules of procedure. So did everybody get a chance to read the rules of procedure? And do you have any questions or would like to discuss any of the language in here?
Yeah, so if I may, on page 3, number 12, public comment. So we're sticking with just one public comment at the end of the meeting. The next page, Tara.
I see number 3, I'm with you.
Right, so, I will still, a couple years ago, when I was mayor, I did institute 2 public comment periods, one in the beginning of the meeting and one at the end of the meeting. And the reason for that, I was on the SID meeting Thursday night, and I had my hand up to ask a question, but it was something that came up during the meeting, and Mr. McDonald did get up on the microphone. He said, I see 2 hands are raised, but public comment is finished. And I think the reason why we might want to consider a public comment in the beginning, because sometimes you want to talk about something before it may or may not happen. You want to give your opinion, your 3 minutes, and then at the end, you have it again, because you don't know what was going to be discussed in the meeting. So I personally did not have a problem. We had, in essence, 3 public comments, 1 in the beginning, 1 for consent agendas, and 1 at the close of the meeting. That worked out well. I don't know if that's something you want to consider. The other thing is on section 2, it says a request of any member of the TC anytime prior to 4 p.m. on the date of the meeting can put something on the agenda. I was always under the impression it was either just the mayor who can put something on the agenda by themselves, or you needed 3 TC people to put something on the agenda. So I wasn't sure if that could be clarified. Who can put something on an agenda?
Right, well, I think that this is for our conversation. Oh, you're asking
Well,
Mr. Falcon or Mr. McDonald
I think-
as how it's been done in the past, or?
Like, just to clarify if that is a change, or is it still just the mayor who puts something on the agenda, or do you still need 3 TC people to want to put something on the agenda? We've discussed this a lot in the past. So I wasn't sure with this paragraph.
Mayor, if you'd like me to address that.
Oh, please, Mr. McDonald.
So I think the issue here is the mayor and the business administrator generally will set the business portion of the agenda. This, I think, is speaking to, and I do not want to speak for the committee, but I think what this is in regards to an item of old business or new business in which a committee member wants to provide a heads up to their fellow committee members that they'd wish to discuss that. I think that is what this particular part is saying, and maybe should be clarified a bit to address those 2 sections, whether it's old business or new business. I think which is very helpful to the meeting to let others know what might be discussed so you can prepare for it.
Right, instead of having to just bring it up under new business, it would be something that a member could actually put on the agenda, so it would be written when the public sees it, they know it's something that obviously somebody wanted to speak about.
Correct. However, that doesn't. I don't want to make that sound like that means that the rest of the committee would want to speak about it, but that certainly that if you had something to say, you're because you could bring it up under new business right now and say, I'd like to discuss this, right? However, I think it's in terms of the decorum of the meeting and making sure that everybody has a heads up, so to speak, in what's being that would be what that would be addressing.
So if Mr. Wasserman wanted to put something under new business, instead of just bringing it up out of what would seem like thin air, he could request that it is on the agenda, written under new business.
Correct. That does not preclude Mr. Wasserman from bringing it up out of thin air either. But.
Obviously. But if you wanted to have it written format so people in the public know it's something that's going to be discussed. Okay. Let's see real fast. No, it's all pretty clear. Okay, those are just the 2 things that look like they might have been changed, and good, thank you. We'll save this.
Do any other committee men or women have any comments about the rules of procedure or order of business?
Nope.
Okay, so then if the language is acceptable to the committee, which it seems that it is, then we will ask that a resolution be drafted and placed on the next agenda so it may be considered for approval.
Mr.
Yeah,
Phelps.
and I would only want to point out that this is an interim set. You're taking this in bites. The types of motions that can be addressed and the adoption of resolutions and ordinances will come later on to amend this, but in response to your request to have something ready to go at this time, this is the first element of it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the litigation steering committee. So I know that there has been some discussion and request for litigation steering committee to be opened up to residents in the town or perhaps other people in the town. And some of my discussion with fellow committee members has been that we should have the chair of our environmental commission, who is now Priya Patel, to serve on the steering committee. So she would be, bringing to the committee that for her to be one of the people that is added to the steering committee, and that also there's a resident who we're waiting to hear back if they will get the approval from their place of work to make sure that they can sit on this as well. So I wanted to bring this to the floor of the committee so that we could talk about it and see where everybody is at with it.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I think it's actually a very good idea. This is my second year on that committee, and I think having more voices would be helpful. I'll also point out that Priya Patel, as part of the environmental commission, can be potentially very helpful as some of the issues are environmental in nature, and I think we could use her feedback and leadership on some of those issues.
Great, thank you. Committeewoman Miggins?
I think it's a great idea. I do.
Is the resident an attorney?
The resident is an attorney, but for right now, I'm not naming the resident, so please don't ask any more questions about that. Just
No.
yes, and everybody also will take an oath of confidentiality, and because they will be having privileged information that cannot be shared, just in the same way that the rest of that we can't share what goes on in those steering committee meetings.
Then, since we won't mention who it is, and I don't know who it is, I'll ask you privately some other
Yes,
concerns of mine.
Okay, we can have that conversation for sure. So it seems as though there is consensus from the township committee to move forward so that we can have that resolution, or is that an ordinance, Mr. Falcon, or a resolution of changing the steering committee?
You did by resolution.
So it seems that we have consensus that will be on the next agenda.
That's an annual thing.
In February 9th to change by resolution. So the next item of new business is that we've had discussion with Mr. McDonald and amongst the township committee members that it's time to do a reevaluation of our zoning code throughout the township. And I'm proposing that we form a subcommittee with 2 planning board members, 2 zoning board of adjustment members, 2 township committee members, our business administrator, Mr. McDonald, and Ms. Eileen Davitt, our board secretary and zoning officer. I have Committeewoman Miggins has agreed to sit on the subcommittee with me, and we have asked planning board members and zoning board members who are Dan Bear, sitting on the planning board, Dan Bear and Jorge Mastropietro, and the zoning board of adjustment members, Jessica Galat and Craig Plotner, and they have agreed. So it is with, if there is consent, well, first I want to open it up to discussion to see how everybody feels about forming this zoning recode evaluation subcommittee.
Have you opened this up to all the board members and asked if they're interested? This is the first I'm hearing of this. I would absolutely raise my hand to be interested in sitting on that.
Okay. Noted.
Noted.
Understood.
So will this be for business, residential, all of it?
It would be for looking at the entire
Town.
zoning code of the township, and also Mr. McDonald is, if you have any questions, further information, feel free to ask him.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
And would you like
Yeah,
to
I can
say
provide
anything
some
to it?
additional information or color
Just kind
to
of,
this
overview of the
conversation. Yeah.
process?
Yep. So as many may know, the township zoning code has been certainly there are avenues for that to be addressed year after year. However, I think there in the years over years, some of the code has become contradictory of itself. It has become outdated. Other things need to be looked at and addressed, whether it's FAR and various different residential zones or things like that. But I think there's definitely some, work to be done in this area, in particular, just to make our code more user-friendly and more comprehensive, because I've done through some of the exercises in the previous year, looking at other townships' zoning code, I can tell you that some of our, or perhaps some of the complaint that people coming into the town, particularly for a business or even residential, and attempting to interpret our code, have some difficulty. And the idea would be to provide a more comprehensive code that maybe has some, illustrative portions of it to provide a visual perspective of what that code might be, as well as provide a clearer path for our zoning officer as well in her interpretation of that code for those individuals who are attempting to do business or come live in the township or make changes to their own home. And I think it would just be much more user-friendly.
I think, if I may, Mayor,
Please.
this was done in 2006, and the committee met for months and months, and I'm afraid that they came out of the room and the thing was adopted. And it really needed to have input from the planner in order to make sure that everything fit together. That's one of the reasons why I think it's not as user-friendly as Mr. McDonald also commented. Also, I have an illustrated book of land use for examples that you might be able to utilize, and I'll get that book to you, because they're really, it's just, it's like it's worth 1,000 words, a picture. It can be
Right.
very helpful in some instances, so I'll get that to you, Alex. There.
Great. And
Thank you,
then
Mr. Cook.
we will,
Take it up.
as needed, we can consult with our town planner along the process if we
Yeah.
feel that that is needed. Thank you for that input.
Can I have a comment question. We have a subcommittee, a business advocacy subcommittee with Explore Millburn. And we've met with Eileen Davitt and with several business owners. And there are a few specific zoning issues, in our business district that we were engaging. The whole point is to try to lower the barriers for outside businesses to come into the township, to make it easier on the businesses to operate and come into our community. So, and I know that this is really a comprehensive, long-term, effort. But I certainly wouldn't want to be, I'll just say to my colleagues here, I may not want to be, precluded from working on a few low-hanging fruit, because I know that this effort may take 6 months, a year, or whatever it's going to take, to complete the larger mission. But there's some lower-hanging fruit, some short-term initiatives that I'm looking at with the Business Advocacy Subcommittee, and I certainly would want to just throw it out there that that there's some action items I might want to move on before that work is completed.
Great.
So I just wanted to publicly put it out there.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Great. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, so then it seems that we also have consensus from the Township Committee to adopt a resolution at the next meeting to create that subcommittee to look at the zoning code. And then the last order of new business on the agenda is the stormwater water control ordinance revision, in which I'm going to refer to Mr. McDonald to review that with us.
Yes, and I'm going to refer to the Zoom in which we have Martha Callahan, the township's engineer, who had addressed this issue and the requirements that are facing the township with regard to the adoption of this ordinance, and can speak to it a bit more and answer any questions that the committee may have prior to bringing this forward for our first reading. Martha?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Township Committee. and residents. Thank you for having me tonight. This came across our radar in the last year, the year of COVID, and so we're acting on it now. And I want to just give you a little history. We do have a stormwater control ordinance. It is part of our development regulations. It's in Article 5 of our current development regulations. This stormwater control, the current one, was adopted in 2006. It was part of a DEP, part of their stormwater management rules that came about in 2004 to 2006, and we passed this ordinance in 06. Recently, I guess starting in 2018, the DEP began the process of revising and amending their stormwater management rules. And they, last year in March of 2020, adopted new rules. And what they're doing now is requiring all New Jersey municipalities to pass a new ordinance by March of 2021, which is coming up rather quickly. They have provided a model stormwater control ordinance with all their new required rules. And I sat down with both ordinances side by side, and I went through all of the changes. And the wording is almost identical in most of the ordinance. So it's not really going to change too much from what we're currently working under. But they did change and mainly added, they augmented their definitions. They've added 13 new definitions, and they've revised one. They made some changes in the definition of what they call a major development. And basically that new definition, the old definition of a major development is 1 acre of disturbance and or a quarter of an acre of new impervious surface created. The new ordinance says it's 1 acre of disturbance and or a quarter of an acre of regulated motor vehicle surface created. So they're taking out the requirement, for example, a quarter of an acre of, say, new roof surface. That no longer would put them into the category of a major development. But if you have a quarter of an acre of new, say, parking area or roadway, that puts you into that category of major development. And there's a lot of little intricacies, like if you've created new impervious surface since the old ordinance was in effect, then that adds to this, what you're going to have to do in terms of stormwater quantity control and quality control. So there are some intricacies. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds tonight, but the other major change is that the existing ordinance talks about non-structural stormwater management strategies, say, and they're really kind of vague. They say things like minimize compaction of soil. I mean, there's not really a way to quantify that or measure that, but they're more like ideas. They aren't really things that you can quantify or measure. And what the DEP did was they took out those non-structural stormwater management strategies from our existing stormwater control ordinance, and they put that into the New Jersey Administrative Code, because they said that these are ideas that are more useful for new municipalities when they're doing their planning. If they have big open spaces and are planning to open that up to development, for instance. And in place of the non-structural stormwater strategies, they put in the new green infrastructure strategies. And that's where we're going to see a big difference when we have major developments that come into town that come under the category of using these new rules. They're going to have to be using green infrastructure strategies. So that those two, the definitions and bringing in the green infrastructure, stormwater management strategies are the two major changes. And, but I think it's a good thing. If anyone has any questions and wants to, I can certainly provide copies of the model stormwater ordinance. They're also on the DEP website, and I think we may have them on our township website. But if anybody wanted to discuss any of these things with me, I'd be happy to take any phone calls or emails. So that in a nutshell is what we're looking at right now. So I don't know if anyone has any questions that hopefully I'd be able to answer tonight.
Well,
Yeah, please, Mr. Feldman.
oh yeah, I keep moving on. First of all, I'm happy to advise that one of my environmental partners was very instrumental in working up this model ordinance with the DEP through our membership in the Authorities Association. This is kind of the final evolution of the control of water, which started with the Clean Water Act and point sources, where industries were discharging into rivers, and then we went to pre-treatment so that before an industry could discharge into a municipal pipeline that eventually went to a river. We're now at what is seen at the moment anyway as the last element having to do with non-point source pollution, where water runs over the land and picks up pollution in parking lots or in various other kinds of areas. And I have to second what Martha has said. This is a good development, and it's a good step for the municipalities in New Jersey to take, and we'll have this up and ready for you when you're ready to act on it.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, then if it's acceptable to the committee, we'll ask that the ordinance be placed on the next agenda so that it may be considered for introduction. Does any committee members have any other item of new business that they would like to address? Okay. Public comment. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. There was a properly noticed remote option for those who could not attend the meeting in person. If you call in and would like to comment, please press 6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click Raise Hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the town's clerk's office at townclerk@millburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly. Please direct all comments to me. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. I will now open the public comment period.
Good evening again. My name is Jeffrey Feld. I live at 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I am a pre-Midtown Direct resident. Before you start considering the change of the bylaws, I think you need to really get a written opinion whether citizens can be denied the right to be heard on agenda action items, because it was not clear whether we'll be denied the right, because tonight we were granted that right. As to the presentation, as to attorney fees, I request that be posted on the website so the public can see the comments were there. There are certain things that were not mentioned in that analysis. No one really was an explanation of what a fair and open contract process is and what a non-fair and open contract process is. Also, there was a representation that since 2013 through the present, our general counsel got paid $175 an hour. That change occurred in 2020. Prior to that time, his rate was $195 an hour. That is information that's on the public website. Also, we did not talk about what really precipitated this report was how excess monies were paid to the general counsel in excess of his retainer. And that goes back to the state controller's best practices report from around 2011. And the question is, what checks and balances failed? What circuit breakers failed? We have to make sure this does not happen again. You also need to really, as to Oprah, I believe you should have independent counsel looking at some of those requests, because some of the requests goes back to the time summaries. It's the fox guarding the hen house. Your general counsel should not be evaluating what gets redacted from his time summaries. Some independent counsel should be looking at that, because when I get documents, I think I'm in national security issues. How many grant writers do we have? Because when we heard about the retention of the SID executive director, we heard he's a grant writer. How many grant writers does the city need? We need to be cutting expenses. As to the gap period, tonight before the meeting, all agenda packet documents are on the website. After tonight, they will be removed in the next meeting. I think the public needs to know, and there should be a legend on the website, that if you want the documents, because there's a gap between the meeting and the minutes, because a lot of people were trying to look for the retention documents from the last time. Today, there was 4 cases that were issued, one from the State Supreme Court, one from the Appellate Division that were published. You need to look at them, and 2 unpublished opinions. One talked about public pensions and tort claims. One other big issue is, in the litigation involving Wells Fargo, Beehive, general counsel is not representing the city, some other outside law firm. I am aware of no resolution where this committee, local government body, authorized the retention. These are the little things.
Mr. Feld, thank you so much for your
All right,
comment.
thank you.
That's not needed. The insurance company has provided counsel.
Right.
We don't need to pass a resolution.
Well, at least we know that now.
Would anyone else like to come make public comment?
Jean Pasternack, 342 Hobart Avenue. Regarding the legal presentation, I'd like to underline what Jeff Feld just said, that there was not a critical issue addressed in the presentation that I think Mr. McDonald himself raised at the last meeting, that since 2013, any overages beyond the cap of $100,000 in the retention agreement for Mr. Falcon was not approved. There was no resolution made and approved by the township committees from 2013 onward. Those were your words. So I, as a resident, would like to understand why that was occurred and what remedial steps are going to be taken to prevent that going forward, and what are we doing about the past. $650,000 a year is a lot of money. Has the township committee considered bringing an attorney or 2 on staff? It seems that lawsuits and Oprah requests are arising from non-existent, poor, and obfuscating communications about official and unofficial actions taken or to be taken by the township committee. Have you addressed this issue, and will you please consider that as being a source of this alleged excessive Oprah requesting? And also, the other thing that I didn't hear being spoken about was addressing the conflict of interest issue regarding members of the committee potentially being represented or actually being represented by our municipal attorney at taxpayer expense. Moving on, Ms. Prupus's statement at the beginning of the meeting, I think your actions were constructive in terms of allowing public comment. I think what Ms. Eglo has requested in terms of allowing for more public comment, as she had done and other mayors have done, must be taken seriously, or there will be a contentious relationship with the public if you try and suppress our free speech. I think it's good to hear Member Vignac's comment on spending, and I think it's great that you're doing that. Monthly review. I also think you should look at the revenue side. I find it a bit ironic in that you're on one hand trying to watch expense, but on the other hand, now Perkins Eastman is extended into June, and I think a cell phone tower proposal was being proposed, and Ms. Prupus killed that because she asked that we wait till Perkins Eastman is done. Now it's not March, it's June. So here's a revenue opportunity that was just pushed aside. regarding the executive director contract for the SID. Shouldn't that be approved by the Township Committee? And also, while we're on the subject of the SID, the secretary has been in public with comments on Facebook suggesting that the free speech of somebody who has raised issues with the SID be suppressed. I think that's pretty bad for somebody who's been appointed by this committee to represent the people, served by the SID. And lastly, I would just like to point out one more time the conflict of interest issue. Any issues before the Township Committee that involves real estate presents a conflict for Ms. Miggins, and she should not be appointed to subcommittees or boards involving real estate. She should recuse herself from matters involving real estate.
Thank you so much for your comments. Are there any other public comments? Should we take?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, hi. Jennifer Bathena, 64 Great Hills Road, in Short Hills. Hi, I unfortunately didn't get to speak last town committee meeting, so I just wanted to make this general. I just have 4 wishes for the new year and the new town council. First, I want to wish a happy and healthy 2021 to all, and thank the members of the town council, various board members, law enforcement, and our first responders for serving this town. Second, I wish for the town council to show strong stewardship, sincerity, and discipline when spending our tax dollars. While we sincerely appreciate the time you devoted to this town, please realize that we are entrusting you with our hard-earned money. So our hope is that you exercise strictest fiscal discipline with full accountability and transparency. Third, my third wish, I wish the town council will step up and do the right thing for our town in a non-partisan way. Remember that this town has very diverse political views, but at the end of the day, there shouldn't be any party politics in our little town's governance. When you think and speak about inclusion, you should make sure the committee's house is in order. Public decisions should include all members of the committee, even those who might disagree with you politically or otherwise. And finally, my last wish, we are living through an era of toxic cancel culture. We seem to have become intolerant as a society to non-popular views and are unable to discuss opposing views respectfully with each other. I have unfortunately seen that happen between friends and neighbors, and even on town committee meetings in 2020. So here's my final wish for 2021 for the newly sworn in town council. Please bring back that tolerance of non-popular viewpoints. Please encourage diversity of thought. Please lead with example and restore civility and professionalism in this governance process. Remind everyone that we are neighbors first, and all views should be encouraged, not canceled. Thank you very much, and wish you all lots and lots of luck.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Hello again, Dominique Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue. I would really appreciate if some of these questions are answered at the end, and I'm more than happy to repeat anything if anything was forgotten. All right, I'd like to start off with saying this week, Mayor Tara Prupus went door to door around all business on Upper Millburn Avenue, our neighbors, our fellow shop owners, to ask about opinions and or buy-in for the contested SID or the Perkins Eastman Vision Plan, Downtown Vision Plan. Why would Mayor Prupus go to a select few businesses and skipped right past us? What was the reasoning for this? Why leave us out? Are we not as important? Are we not paying the same expense? Why do you ignore all of our requests to meet with you? Why wouldn't you walk through our doors, our place of business, to ask our opinion and feeling? Why was our place of business not one of the commercial property owners approached by Perkins Eastman, as Mayor Prupus stated at the beginning of her public announcements. What is it about Perkins Eastman Downtown Vision Plan that both Mayor Prupus and Deputy Mayor Wasserman are so much in favor and supportive of? Before you both objected to and opposed the Complete Streets project. Several meetings ago, Mayor Prupus and Deputy Mayor Wasserman opposed our BA discussing and pursuing a cell tower lease near the East Orange Reservoir. Mayor Prupus and Deputy Mayor Wasserman assured us that Perkins Eastman would complete its downtown vision plan by the end of March. What happened to this? Why the urgent need for a 3-month extension? Why during a COVID pandemic should taxpayers and not Perkins Eastman bear these additional costs and expenses? Thank you, and I'll be more than happy to repeat things as I'd like some clarification.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay, can you say why you have not gone to my place of business to ask about our opinions and feelings about any of this that directly affects us?
Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you doesn't answer anything. You're the mayor. Can you answer for once?
Are we done with the, okay. Is there anybody else, Mr. Moman, to bring on? Okay.
Good evening. Perry Urso, 514 Millburn Avenue, 506 Millburn Avenue. I'm hopeful that all the committee members have received my statement from the January 5th, 2021 meeting from our clerk. Thank you, Christine. I ask you kindly to listen and not to have me shut out. My husband and I came to Millburn Township nearly 28 years ago. We had a vision. We had the drive to succeed. We had hard work in our blood. Our future was left in the hands of the Township Board of Adjustments. They believed in us and they trusted us. We would add good to this community. We elected you to do what's right for the community. We believed in each and every one of you. But unlike a few on this board, we did what we promised on May 4th, 1994. We worked through the process, and in October 1994, we had the pleasure to open our doors to serve your community. We learned from our mistakes, survived many hurdles, but with integrity, we rose above and we did better. We survived storms and hurricanes, specifically during Superstorm Sandy, when citizens helped citizens. My husband helped the township, neighbors, and friends in need. He went through hoops to get our neighbor Al on Upper Millburn Avenue to get his Sunoco up and running for the community. My husband's efforts enabled first responders to receive thousands of gallons of fuel with no appreciation or recognition. But that did not stop my husband from preparing hot meals for them every single day during the storms. We proudly raised our beautiful daughter in the town, taught her how to appreciate its benefits, and with that hard work, there will be opportunities to reap the fruits of your labor. We remind her nothing comes easy and take nothing for granted. We endlessly donate to local teams, organizations, schools, synagogues, our parish, St. Rose of Lima, and sponsored fundraiser events, to state a few. No different than so many people who reside and work and volunteer in this community, surely like the 5 of you. Now we have the SID, something that suppresses and threatens what we have worked for. Your SID ordinance wishes to control us and our businesses. Your SID ordinance wishes to leave us with the burden of loans, which we have not our signatures on. Your SID ordinance wishes to buy, lease, and sell our property. Your SID ordinance leaves us with the unknown assessments every single year, salaries, and so much more. We've made roots here. My husband made decisions for his family and always bought and borrowed what he could afford. Maybe it's a good business model for this township to follow. Tonight, I request this committee to rescind Article SID Ordinance 2561-20. Tonight, I ask the committee, is it true that Mr. Feld is one of the reasons our state Supreme Court changed the probable cause review process for...
Are there any other?
That says for
public comments? Are there any other public comments for inside the room? And please remember that everyone has 3 minutes. At 2.5 minutes, you will hear the buzzer, and we'll have 30 seconds to wrap up your comments. When the second buzzer goes off at the full 3 minutes, your allotted time is over. Does anyone else would like to make a public comment? Okay. Does any of our professionals or other committee members like to address would any of the, no, would any of the, I offered it, would any of the other committee members like to address the? Oh, yeah, I said, oh, okay, I had asked if there were any other public comments.
So is there anybody else on the Zoom?
No one that hasn't spoken,
Okay.
great.
Nancy Stone, 266 Millburn Avenue, Essex Street. Nancy and David Fine Jewels, installed by Nancy and David. I have no hate in my heart. I have only love in my heart. And that has no place. Your words, unfortunately, do not resonate with your actions. With that said, I started here specifically because of the SID. I was opposed to it for the way it was launched. You were very instrumental in destroying the last SID with your posse. And we now have a different SID with the same issues, a different crew. No fault of the board, because they are volunteers, and they do, I do believe, have good intention. I believe they have the same good intentions every board who has served before them. When you know better, you hopefully do better. This TC clearly, with the exception of the 2 new members, and Diane, who clearly has not learned from the past, and you specifically, who was very involved in the last SID, you should know better and you should have done better. Why did the SID hire an executive director from Denville when they dissolved their SID during a pandemic? Why did we hire him at $80,000 a year when you can Google his previous salary was $69,000 a year? And clearly was not productive during a pandemic year. No fault, I'm sure, of Ryan's. We were told by Christine today and Alex, actually Christine, that she's not to be CC'd on the SID emails. No one is answering the questions. And just to be clear, is Tracy Levine as secretary going to be responding to questions? Because nobody is getting back to us. And I have you on videotape standing here. At 3, we've asked over and over again. We asked for a copy of the filing, and no copy has been given. Who is the official lawyer for the SID? Michael Parlavecchio graciously stated he is not the lawyer. Stephen Weiner is not licensed in the state of New Jersey, so clearly he's not the lawyer. And who's reviewing the contracts that the SID is engaging in? These are questions that I want answered. I'm going to submit them to Tracy, and I expect an answer.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Does anybody else want to make public comment? Well, I think we have someone in the room, and then we'll go to the.
My name is David
call.
Stone. I live at 10 Fielding Road, Short Hills, and I have a business with my wife, Nancy and David Fine Jewels, at 266 Essex Street. We are proud, tax-paying property owners, unlike, and I'm supposed to address you, unlike you, Ms. Prubis. We are property owners and pay taxes in this town. And I have to tell you, I witnessed last week your level of disrespect to my wife and lack of transparency and full disclosure that you do not provide. And it was a disgrace to watch. I was not here in person. I watched it over the internet. It was a disgrace to watch your body language and you shutting down the public as you did. This is supposed to be a transparent and welcoming committee. There's no welcoming. You're shutting everyone out. It's a disgrace. And I'm here to tell you that unless things change from this committee and you open your arms and welcome the public to speak their peace of mind, you're all going to be voted out. And frankly, those of you that don't abide by welcoming people, you'll be voted out. But Ms. Prubis, you should step down. You are incompetent. You are a disgrace, as I said. You shouldn't be sitting there, and you should not be addressed as mayor. That's about all I've got to say right now. My wife and lastly, my wife and I, we are stakeholders in this town for far longer than most all of you that are here. We're 30 years, 3 decades living in this town and conducting business in this town. So we are big stakeholders here. We worked with prior township committee members in the past. We donated the street clock on the corner of Essex and Main through our business. And as I said, we have committed ourselves to this town. We have worked with other township council members that provided transparency and provided full disclosure, and no one ever shut us down in the past. But you have a way of projecting yourself that is just contentious. It's disgraceful, it's disgusting, and you owe my wife an apology. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Are there any other public comments?
Hi, this is Elizabeth Volavon, 54 Cedar Street in Millburn, and I'm on the Environmental Commission. I'm on the subcommittee that we're working on green infrastructure for developments and possibly housing. We found out recently that according to NJAC 78-1.5, that the township is legally able to create more rigorous stormwater regulations than the state. So that's something that we're working on. And I heard you mention that you will be presenting the stormwater issues on February 9th, but the next Environmental Commission meeting is February 10th. Will there still be time for us to write a resolution supporting the stormwater regulations and possibly add our additional comments to that if our meeting is after February 9th?
Mr.
If the recommendations come in, which are substantially different, and put additional requirements into the ordinance beyond what is on first reading, then when you get the second reading, you're going to have a
there will
problem.
be time for public comment.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of time for public comment, but the problem in the suggested timeline is, and you may want to, if you want to hear the recommendations of the Environmental Commission before you introduce, that would be desirable. Now, whether they could meet earlier or you could defer the introduction of the ordinance, but hearing a lot of potentially substantive changes between first and second reading creates a problem for you adopting on second. You'd have to put it off.
Okay, Mr. McDonald?
Just to piggyback on that, so the stormwater ordinance is required to be, it's compulsory to be passed in its minimum form. However, understanding the Environmental Commission may have additional work that they want to look at or additional whatever it might be, then I think it's best that they take their time with that the committee look forward to passing this ordinance, and that if there are additional revisions to that ordinance, that they be done at a later date after the due date of that ordinance.
Okay, that sounds great. Mrs. Volavon, are you done with your public comment, or do you have more?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, Dave Boyko, 30 Farmstead Road, Short Hills. I just wish to extend a happy new year and best wishes to the members of the Township Committee. And Lord, I sure hope you have the patience to get through the rest of this year in your terms. Good luck and thank you for all you do for this town as volunteers.
Thank you, Mr. Boyko.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Would any of our professionals, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Falcon, any of the committee members, oh, excuse me, I'm going to back up. I will now close public comment period. Would any of our professionals or any other committee members like to address any of the comments that were made tonight? I would like to. Does anybody else have any comments?
I'll wait till after you.
Okay, so I would just like to clarify that I did not go door to door on Upper Millburn Avenue. I did not go door to door to any businesses, but I am happy to meet with the public during my regular scheduled office hours on Thursdays from 9 to 11. Meetings shall be set up by appointment. To schedule an appointment, please contact me at tprupus@millburntwp.org. Please include how you would prefer meeting via Zoom, phone, or in person, and I will do my best to accommodate your request. Mr. McDonald, the contract, the extension, it's not 3 months to complete. I mean, I was expecting a report in April from Perkins Eastman. Is that correct? Is that your expectation?
That absolutely is, Mayor. The idea here, though, is that we wanted to make sure that any extension that was put in that, in terms of the time frame, allocated some additional time in the event that it did take longer. However, the time frame still remains March and early April. There's no change to that, and while I understand, but we didn't want to be here in March or April saying, hey, we need to extend this again and do it for
now. But it is my expectation, Deputy Mayor Wasserman, I don't know if you have a different expectation, but that we are going to get this report in the beginning of April.
Yeah, but I also wanted to point out that there's no extra money being charged for this. In other words, we have a very tight contract with Perkins. They're fulfilling it, and this is just a question of and certainly during COVID, we need a little flexibility in terms of when they're going to be able to perform, get everything done. But I do agree with that.
Okay, and then lastly, I think some really important questions were brought up by Ms. Stone in relationship to the bid, and I was just wondering, do we know when some of those questions are going to be answered? In terms of, some of them were pretty basic questions.
Yeah, I think again, I don't want to speak for the board trustees at the SID. However, I think if Ms. Stone said that she was going to submit those questions to Tracy, certainly I invite you to submit those as well to the MSH SID at millburntwp.org, so that they're also in my possession as well.
Okay, and then all those emails are being answered with a signature and.
Yes, they are.
At this point, so okay, so we will have some answers to the questions that were asked in regard to the bid.
Yeah.
In the upcoming weeks, days.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments? Ms. Aglo?
Yeah, so whoever asked about grant writers, we've never had a professional grant writer on premise, correct? But Mr. Molman has done some grant work applications?
That's correct. However, there's also, we had for the Chatham Road project, Safe Streets to Transit, we had used the services of Millennium grant writing for that grant, and again, we're not successful in getting it.
Right. As far as having a staff attorney, do any municipalities of our size have staff attorneys? Because I know Mr. Falcon's firm has a breadth of attorneys of all different spectrums that we need. So would having a staff attorney in town even be feasible and financially in our best interest?
Well, I don't want to speculate or answer that question too quickly. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the idea of another full-time employee, or two full-time employees, and what goes into that. You know, I think there's a lot to consider, and I wouldn't feel comfortable answering that, you know, on the spot right now.
But when I did speak to Mr. Wasserman this week about the SID contract for Mr. Gleason, I did ask who reviewed that contract. So it was reviewed by Mr. Parlavecchio or Mr. Weiner?
It was reviewed, I mean, it was reviewed by the board. You know, we reviewed it carefully, and I think it's a very good, you know, I think it's a very good, fair contract. And I'll also speak, you know, to one other issue, that Mr. Gleason is an excellent professional, and his references were outstanding. And I'll just hold out one other thing. Well, one of our neighboring communities, Montclair, you know, just received, you know, through their bid, a grant of $400,000 from the state because they knew how to apply for it. They were able to apply for it, and they distributed that to 114 of their businesses. So 114 of their businesses were able to be given $3,500 grants during this COVID time. So, you know, this is, you know, listen, it's easy to, you know, criticize, and I do understand, Nancy, I do understand, you know, your concerns. I do understand your concerns, but this is about supporting our businesses. This is about grants. This is about trying to do good things for our businesses. And I'm happy to, you know, just for the record, I'm happy to meet with you. I'm happy to meet with you. I have it here. I'll give it to you tonight. But we've never, as Committeewoman Eglo has stated, you know, we rarely get grants. You know, I mean, we saw from Alex tonight, you know, what came in, but in terms of for a business community or a township, we never get these. And this is something that I want to work on, and I've talked to Committeewoman Eglo about this, and I think it could really help our township.
Does anybody else have
Wait, I have a
any,
couple more things, Mayor.
Okay.
Just, a couple of people brought up the cell phone tower. I hope that is not a dead conversation, because I think there are too many people in our town who have really bad cell phone service. And if Perkins Eastman's about a downtown vision plan, I was questioned why you did shut that conversation down for something up so far away from the downtown, when that would be beneficial to so many of our residents and people. And also, the other good thing about that is that our EMS and police get a repeater on top of that. So I hope that's something we will keep discussing and not just close off that it's not going to happen. I think it's too important, and it is a revenue stream. And the other thing is, I just want to reinstate my interest in being on the zoning revisioning. I said, as a senior member of this township committee who served on the planning board, who started the roundtables with our property owners to find out some of the barriers and some of the reasons that they had so many problems and issues like you had in opening up your business. So I would like to hope that that's, when we bring that resolution, it's not a closed conversation, if we'll be sitting on that as well. Because I don't know if you spoke about that with the other committee members, because I never heard about that until I saw it on the new business.
Okay,
So I'd like to keep putting that out to you.
I hear you.
I
hear
know
you.
you
Okay.
do. Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody else have any? So I would just like to address the consent. We will have public comment on consent agenda items moving forward. We did not do it on the top of the front of the year, the reorg, because that was generally the practice that we didn't do it, the reorg. And I will talk to my fellow committee members about putting another public comment on the agenda, and we will talk about the rules of the business meeting, so we can further discuss that. And with that, I'd just like to say goodnight to everybody, and may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Let's hope for a good day in Washington.
So,